So why is it that some teams succeed where others fail? Why is it that some teams get better, they innovate and they create, whereas other teams are satisfied with the status quo? I believe that a big part of that is purpose, leadership, and motivation. So what I want to do is talk today about my story of failed leadership. I want to tell you about how when I became a manager of a web and mobile design team that I failed as a leader. I want to tell you how I learned from that and how I righted the ship. So managing people that build websites and mobile apps requires you to manage creative people. How many people in here would say that they're creative? All right. So if you would have asked me 5 years ago, are you creative? The answer would have been a resounding no, not at all. Because I don't draw, I don't play guitar and sing, I don't stack stones, and I can't rock skinny jeans, I can't dance, I can't do anything that is creative. But then I dissected the word creative. What is a creative? Creative is one who creates, right? And we all think for a living, we all solve problems, we all create solutions every day. So we're all creative in a sense. So I was able to take that, to use that to lead a creative team. So when I first became a manager, I said, you know what, I've got to learn how to lead people. So I put out all these old leadership books and I started reading about how to motivate people. And there's different ways to motivate people. And I read that you can motivate people with fear. You know, some infamous leaders have cut the bottom 10% every year, so they motivate with fear. Tried that didn't work. I tried, hey, let's just motivate teams and let them know if they don't get their job done, they may lose it. That didn't work. So then I read that you can motivate people with incentives. You can incentivize people to do a better job. If you do this, then you get that, right? So I said, hey, we do a good job, our company does well, we'll get bigger raises, we'll get bonuses. That didn't work either. What I found was that during my first year, I had the highest turnover rate in the company. At one point, 40% of the people that worked for me were empty chairs. And that's a very frustrating place to be. And during that year, our productivity was the worst that it's ever been. I measure a lot of our stats of websites, usage, revenue, and it was all down. Everything looked terrible. So then I got really, really lucky that I stumbled across a TED Talk by Dan Pink, where he talked about how incentives don't work. But what does work when you want to motivate people that have to think for a living, you have to use autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So what I wanted to do was to apply that to my job, to my company, and to others in the industry. So Daniel talked about the candle problem. Anybody here know the candle problem? With the candle problem, what you want to do is you want to affix that candle to the wall so that when you light it, it doesn't drip wax on the floor. And there was a study that was done where people were given this candle problem. One group was given it with no incentives, just solve the problem the best you can, and we'll measure you for a baseline. The next group, if you were the fastest, you get a certain amount of dollars, and if you were in the top 25%, you got a little bit less, but you still got some money. So they were incentivized to solve the problems. What happened? Well, the group that was incentivized to solve the problems did on average 3 minutes worse than the group that wasn't. Why is that, you say? Well, in order to get the candle solution, what you have to do is you can't think in the middle. You have to think on the fringes. You have to look at the margins, because creative solutions aren't usually in the middle. They're not in the middle of the problem. But when you're incentivized, your mind narrows, your focus narrows. You become focused. That's the nature of incentives. So that doesn't work. So luckily, I was able to learn that autonomy, mastery, and purpose are what you have to do to motivate. So I took these. I took autonomy first. Autonomy is freedom. In 2015, it's a little bit easier than it was in 2009 to have freedom. You can work from anywhere. We have smartphones, we have tablets, we have laptops. There's VPN technology. We can work anywhere we want. But maybe your company doesn't let you work remotely. That's okay. You can still have freedom of when you do certain tasks. Maybe you check email in the morning and not at night. Maybe you do certain tasks that involve certain people at certain times. You have some freedom, and we can all give freedom to our teams. So that one wasn't too hard. That was pretty easy. Mastery. This is the easiest of all. Have you ever met a single leader, supervisor, or manager that doesn't want the people under them to get better, to learn more? No, we all want to do that. And with Google and YouTube, it's very easy to find the information that we're looking for. All you have to do is give your team a little bit of time and point them in the right direction. And mastery is another easy one that we can just check off the list. But the last one, purpose, That's where I got stumped. How do you find purpose in designing things or building things that aren't for you? You're building things that people are asking you to do. And if you've ever designed something for someone else, you realize that most of the time, what you're building you don't even like. You build logos for people that you don't really like, but it's what they want. And if you look at marketing statistics, usually the ugly ads are the ones that win. They're the ones that people click on and buy. So it's hard to get motivated and find purpose when you're doing that. So what I wanted to do is come up with a formula for purpose so that I could apply it to my team so that I could get the proper motivation. And this is what I came up with. I came up with perspective plus teamwork will give you purpose. And how I found that was I was at church one Sunday and our pastor was telling us about perspective. And he said that if you're going through a hard time, you can take a higher perspective. And many times, what you're going through, you may think of it as a setback, but it's really a setup for something greater. So I took that and I wanted to apply that to my everyday tasks and the things that came in. So the next time that a task came to me, it was to build a form. And I thought, oh great, how can I apply a greater perspective to this form? And then I thought about it and I went a little bit deeper. And I thought, well, maybe this form is going to save someone from having to make a phone call. And that phone call could take 10 minutes on average. And the form may only take 2 minutes to fill out. So I'm not building a form. I'm building 8 minutes that I can give to someone. And that's 8 minutes that they can use to spend time with their family. Maybe they can read a book to their daughter, play catch with their son. I don't know, but that gave me purpose. And that purpose was really short-lived, though, because of teamwork. We work with people all day long. And sometimes that gets kind of annoying, right? You can get annoyed with the way I talk. Maybe you get frustrated with the way I do things. And you get distracted. And you're distracted from the true purpose. But what I found that if you build teamwork, those distractions go away. And many times, all it takes is a little bit of service together as a team. And you see things in a different perspective, and that gives you long-lasting purpose, which is what we're all going for. All right, back to perspective. One of the ways that you can find perspective is the way Simon Sinek taught us that you can start with why. He taught us that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you take that approach and put it into everything that you do, and you understand the why behind it, and use that to build your correct perspective, you can find true purpose to motivate you to do whatever it is that you do, whether you work in spreadsheets all day or if you design products. So I'm blessed to work for a company whose mission is to make life easier, because that's my why. I can apply that to every task that I have at work. We're building a button. What's the button for? To make life easier for someone. We're building a form. What's it for? To make life easier. We're building a website. Why? To make life easier. And I was able to apply that to everything, and that helped a little. But when you dug deeper, and just a little bit deeper, you found out what that's really doing, that it's saving someone some time, or maybe it's giving them the opportunity to do something that they couldn't do before, and do something that you can't do, something greater than that. That's when you find true perspective. Now, there's a couple of pictures here, and one of them is of a fountain. This fountain's in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's part of Fountain Park. And we were given a task to work on a mobile app for this fountain. And we could have looked at that task in two different perspectives. Right. Perspective one, we're in the middle of the year. We're working on lots of stuff. We have our goals already lined up, and part of our goals, we get incentivized for, right? So we have these goals we have to accomplish, and we have deadlines, and we have due dates. But then this task of building this mobile application so that people can control this fountain is given to us. And we could have looked at it as it's tossed on top of our plate. It's something we have to do. Oh, did I forget to mention the fact that this is a surprise, so we have to do our testing after hours at night. So we have to work extra at night. So we could have looked at it that way. But no, our leadership came to us in a different perspective. They came to us with an approach that said, hey, you get to be part of something bigger than yourselves. You get to do something that's never been done before. You get to bring joy to the community and make your city a better place to live. You get to build the first interactive fountain that people can interact with a smartphone when they're in the park. That rallied the team. That made the team fired up. We were motivated. The team grew to more than just my team. Other teams started getting involved and helping out with it. And they played crucial roles to pulling this off. And I'm happy to say that within the first week of it going live, we had over 1,000 people that came to that park and used that app to control jets, to move it up and down. It was the first interactive fountain. Now, even though you're fired up and you're motivated and you're going through something like that, you still get distracted. You get distracted with one another because you don't like the way this person's doing things, or you don't like the way this person said that. And you lose that purpose that you found earlier. And that's why teamwork is so important. Whether you're painting a house for Habitat or you're serving soup at the soup kitchen, when you serve together, those little things that got on your nerves before go away. Your perspective has changed. You're no longer worried about those little things. You're more focused on the greater good, the purpose that you're driving in every task that you do. And I think that's the key part to building long-lasting purpose and not short-term purpose. So what we found in the last couple of years as a leader, that our productivity has gone up, way up. In some cases, we had year after year with over 30% increase in revenue from our group. The most important stat is that thing at the bottom. That's the thing I'm most proud of. In the last 2 years, we've had 0 turnover. My team has been solid. And in technology, that's a really rare thing, to have 0 turnover. But I want to leave you guys with one last little bit of advice to inspire creativity, generate purpose. And that's the idea of taking a field trip. And I want to tell you 2 stories of taking a field trip. Number 1 is a story from my team. A couple of years ago, we rode around with the technicians in trucks that fix problems. And we have a little application that we built that gives them information they can scroll through on their phone and read remarks and read comments and read what's going on. And then at the bottom, there was a button they could click to close out the trouble ticket. Seemed like an innovative and simple little application that the team could use. And when riding around with them, we noticed that the technicians didn't really use it the way we thought they would. What they did is they waited till the end of the day and went back through all the tickets and closed them, which meant they had to scroll through all of those notes for each ticket and close it, wasting about 10 to 15 seconds worth of time. Doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But when you're closing out 10 or 12 tickets all at the end of the day before you go home, and when you have over 100 technicians doing this, it is a big deal. It's a lot of time. It's real time. And that's not time we're taking away or saving from the company. It's time with their families because they're getting ready to leave for the day. So what we did is, from this trip, we understood that we could spend 30 seconds and make a copy of that button and put it at the top of the form and save them a few minutes. And that's a few minutes that they get to go home and eat dinner and be with their family. And that was what we found from our field trip. But this next story of a field trip is far more powerful. This is the story of Doug Dietz. Doug Dietz designs medical equipment, specifically MRI machines. Anybody here had an MRI before? Yeah, you have to sit in this room for a while. It's kind of scary. Well, Doug created this machine, and he was so proud of his machine because he knew it was going to save lives. He knew it would diagnose problems. So he went to watch it in action. When he got there, he was, completely shocked when the first pediatric patient came in because he was proud of his machine. He wanted to see the great results it had. But this little girl came in crying. She came walking down the hall, saw this room that was beige on beige on beige. She heard the sounds of this machine. She smelled that sterile hospital smell. She saw the warning stickers. She lost it. Doug lost it. But the story doesn't end there. Doug left. He went back to the drawing board. He brought some children in for inspiration, and he turned a machine like that into this. With a little bit of paint, he turned what was a scary situation into an adventure land. Now when children come in, they walk through that bright white hallway, smelling those sterile smells, and they open into a room that looks like a beach. They smell scents of the ocean. They hear sounds. They're at ease. Before this, when parents would come in, their greatest fear wasn't the diagnosis. It was, how do I get my kid to go through this test? How do I make it through this? During their first day of observation with the new design, one of the little girls looked at her mom and said, "Mom, can I come back?" That was the best thing she's seen at the hospital since she's been there. Well, prior to this, 80% of pediatric patients that went through an MRI had to be sedated. Afterwards, less than 10% have to be sedated. So it shows you the power of a little field trip and what you can see and how you can get inspiration and creativity from just taking a trip and seeing people use what you create. So again, you generate purpose by adding perspective and building teamwork. And that'll last you throughout, no matter what task you're doing. Whether you're building a fountain, designing an interface, making a button, working in a spreadsheet, we all create solutions every day, and we need purpose to motivate us through that. Thank you.